I'm starting to keep it.
Perfect.
Okay.
Surgically done, sir.
Well, yes. Yes, a nice clean cut there. There we go.
Primary school?
Q&A session. Cake is coming out. So, but in order to keep the ball rolling here, John is pleased to entertain any questions you might have, and I'll be Mr. Microphone Carrier doing it. So, please, anyone want to raise a hand and ask a question of John Gray? We're watching. Who wants to ask a question? Don't be shy. You're in the Legion. What is asked in the Legion stays in the Legion. Yeah. And here, this gentleman and I are not blood relatives despite appearances. So, John, over to you, sir.
Will there be a sequel? I see tonight we saw Billy Bishop, the young Billy Bishop, in World War I, but we also know he moved on in his career in World War II. So will Billy Bishop return to war in World War II? Will there be a sequel?
Yeah, okay. Over to you, John.
Was that a question? Well, when there are actually three incarnations of Billy Bishop goes to war. The first one was we were both roughly the same age as Billy Bishop. So that's the one that was made into a movie by the BBC and the CBC back in around 1982. So 20 years later, we were about the same age when Billy Bishop, we were asked to do it, and we were about the same age as Bishop was when he was speaking to troops and head of the recruitment program. So we had Billy was that his age then, and we played it that way, and we altered certain things because to go with our age, and it had to do with him sending other people out to war and all that. And he was he's changing into a second war uniform, and on stage is his first little jacket with the medal, so he can flash back. You know, was that kind of thing. The third one, we were both 62, which we were now older than Billy Bishop was when he died. And so we kind of looked at it, and we started off by calling it the Samuel Beckett Billy Bishop, because this is a guy who was toward the end of his life, and so it had to do much more with the ironies of survival. Well, it always did that, but the war is kind of like life, except it's faster. I know this is going to be depressing, but if you live long enough, you get to see all your friends die. You know, that's life as well. So, like, these guys went through in like 6 months, 8 months. That was most of the tours of duty. These guys went through a lifetime's experience of loss and this and that in 6 months. So it became quite different then. And what you saw tonight was what we jokingly call Samuel Beckett television. Basically existential. Yeah.
It was fabulous.
Thank you. Right. Okay. We've got the
If nobody has any questions, that's fine with me too. Don't be embarrassed. I don't mind.
I'm also instructed to say that apparently the first run-through or walk-through of the play was held upstairs. Is that true? Not true. Okay. Well then, welcome to the Billy Bishop. Where you going?
Many things happen, but
I already asked the first question about that particular pedestal, but on a lighter note, in preparing for the production, were there any memorable moments where you guys just had gut-busting laughter that things didn't work out the way you wanted, but what were some funny highlights about getting preparation for the production?
we were always laughing about it. It was that's interesting. I haven't thought of it because it's kind of like I don't like making movies. I mean, it's like hurry up and wait. You know, you're kind of like in a drawer, and then you're brought out and you're supposed to perform. And so I never I can instead tell you stories about production. The time the stage set burst into flames in the Mark Taper Forum in Los Angeles. We had, at that time, we were using a hydraulic lift that was just this size that he would stand on and it would lift up, right? And we would have the smoke machine, so he'd be like Icarus in the sky, and he'd have these, and the lights would hit his goggles, so they'd go out like and we're up there, and I looked over, and Eric was up there, and there were kind of flames were licking at the bottom of his platform at the thing. And you know, my first thought was, can we cover it? It's just so bloody typical, you know? And then I thought, no, this is fire. This is flames. The place is burning down. And so we had to stop the show, and the fire department came in, and everything, and we were standing around waiting. People waited. It was nice. But one couple said, we can't take the fumes. Can you tell me how it ends? It was really sweet. Gosh, it was, that was one, there was a lot of that sort of thing. Canada we toured Canada in the winter. And you always have the flu. You're always sick. And you're always performing sick, and you're driving through snow drifts so that you kind of like. And this was Listowel, Ontario, and we were in there, and we were performing at a converted railway station, and there had been a blizzard. So the risers didn't arrive, so that the audience was on a flat floor, which meant that they could only see us from about the chest up would be not handy, right? And we were both sick, from the sick. Well, that was the night Mike Nichols showed up. I don't know how he got to Listowel. They flew, I guess. I don't know. Nichols showed up. Yeah, it was very strange. It was a very strange.
What did he say?
He said it was a work of art. There, but preparing for it. Eric was an improviser. And he would go on these improvisations that we'd just be lying down, choking with laughter, extensions, He played one of the guy who says, gives him tells him that he's going to receive the awards. He was known as Old Bum and Eyeglass. And he did this kind of thing, this old bum and eyeglass, with bum and eyeglass, playing it literally. I can't exactly explain what it was like. It was incredibly funny. Old bum and eyeglass. He sat in the chair with his bum up. And I know, it was just, oh, no, that was typical.
Thank you.
Best I can do. I'm thinking back.
Happy at the fire.
I'm thinking back a long way here. You know, yeah.
I think I see
Who
a couple of
came up
hands
with
up.
the idea of making a play for Billy Bishop?
Oh, that was Eric. Eric said, I think we should do a play with Billy Bishop together. Because we've done a play here called Herringbone with Tom Cohn. And it had a guy and a piano and a guy plays several parts, right? And so that kind of idea of an extension of what we used to call hat acting, where you wear different hats and play different characters. A kind of an extreme version of hat acting. And we had that. And then Eric left. He went to this sailing. I think it was in the Caribbean. His brother-in-law was in St. Bart's, before St. Bart's was St. Bart's. You know, before David Letterman was living there and people like that. In any case, he was gone, and I got a job teaching acting. I wasn't a good acting teacher. Well, but who knows how to teach acting? Robert Mitchum said, "Oh, that's like teaching people how to be tall." But I had this job. I could go 3 times a week, and I was teaching, and that was basically a kind of like Canada Council grant. And so I wrote a script, and I called it Canadian Hawk, mainly because Bishop really was a hawk. I mean, this is not your Pacific at the time. People thought of Canadians. This was not your pacifist Canadian. Mild, no, he was. And so I wrote this, and then Eric, and I was thinking of Eric because I've seen Eric act in so many shows, and I've written so much music for Eric's shows, and I performed with Eric, and he was with Tamanus, and he, you know, I just know what he does. And so I wrote, characters were written with Eric doing them in mind. And then Eric showed back, and we did some more research. We ended up in Ottawa, above, it was actually classified, and it was above an appliance store in Ottawa. And they just brought in these boxes, and we kind of got the letters and all that stuff from these boxes that were just cardboard boxes just full of paper. It wasn't like, it was strange. And we only got there because Eric had a friend, Wayne Clark, who his father was adjutant to the vice airport. Anyway, so we together, and research was basically we revised it together. And Eric, I wrote scenes like the battle scenes. Eric rewrote the battle scenes because he was a devil for the details and the mechanics of it and stuff like that. He didn't write it, he just improvises things and stuff. And so I worked off his improvisations and wrote there, you know. It was just that was the kind of process that we did. We'd all both been working in theater past Scharein, where people imitated other people, and that was part of the bedrock of it, and imitating real people, and doing hat acting, beautifully.
Where was the first production of it?
It was at Vancouver East Cultural Center. In November of 1978, there was a newspaper strike and the postal strike.
Yes, right.
It wasn't ideal. But we got it. We did well enough to hold over. It was not me, and we held over at a David Y.H. Louis Theater on
Sprat's Ark.
Yes.
Sprat's Ark.
Sprat's Ark. Before that, it was something else.
It's on Richard Street.
On Richard Street.
Yeah.
Yeah, it became Sprat's Ark, but it was.
No,
David
Norman,
White's
Norman
movie.
built it. It was, and then it became a club after that.
That's right. That's right. And we were doing it there, and then Hank Ferris, who was a kind of venture capitalist type here, he's kind of an interesting guy, and he was showing minerals stuff to Louis Allan, who had produced Annie, and right. He also produced Fahrenheit 451, The Collector, Lord of Flies, But he come and he produced it with Mike Nichols. And he come in and he always had this kind of cheroot. Oh, and let's get my partner Mike Nichols. And we got, oh yeah, right. Please, But that's how it started,
I've got a question.
Danny.
Yeah. Can I ask the question with the mic? Oh.
Yes, you may.
Very interesting that you were talking about Billy being a hawk.
Oh, yeah.
And yet, when I saw the film tonight, I really came away with the feeling that it's an anti-war film.
Sure, the people who were, yeah. But there's one thing about, war is one thing, but actually participating in it is another. And there was a wonderful, in the Second World War, there was a wonderful a squadron leader named Johnny Johnson, who had a whole lot of Canadians in his squadron, and he said that's where I got the idea. When the hunter, won the hunted. He said he could tell who was going to survive and who wasn't, by who was hunters and who was hunted. And the hunters checked their ammunition and they checked their engine and they practiced their shooting and they did this. The hunter made sure that they had enough French francs and that they had this stuff in case they were shot down, and they were. And it was just the mental attitude. You had to be the hunter. You couldn't be the hunted. So you could not be anti-war if you're in the war and survive.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yes, please. Please.
Yeah, thank you. I wondered if you could tell us a bit more about the production and the challenges of producing the film of the play. So brilliantly, all integrated, and someone who's in the spent a bit of time in the film knows about the length of the takes, and it must have been so complicated to get all those things working.
We were performing the show at the time. Okay.
Yeah.
So we were. It was not like we were kind of having to kind of learn the lines or do. We did that every night, right? Not while we were shooting, but so it was always. But it started out. Well, Barbara Willis Sweete, she does the opera broadcasts. The opera live shows that are videos from the Metropolitan Opera. That's what she does. That's her big deal. She's made some features too. And we got together and we were trying to find some line between let's not pretend it's a movie, and let's not show it so that the audience feels like they're only looking on to something that the audience is there to see, which is so the audience is sort of a voyeur to it, It's not the best situation if you're making a movie. The audience thinks they're getting it second hand. So we yacked and yacked about it, kind of thing. The The rest was pretty much editing, because the show is an hour and a half. This is shorter, and a movie is not a piece of theater. Movies are visual, essentially, and theater is essentially oral. You hear it. Not in the case of Phantom of the Opera, but still, you know. And so it was mostly just trying to mold that. And I don't. We came up with the idea that at the last minute of having there being some reason, like it was in an empty theater because the audience was bad, but that was it was kind of unsettling. We needed some sort of answer to why he's sitting in an empty theater doing the show. We close ups, low shots, and so the idea came up that we would get real veterans, and that was his imaginary audience that he was talking to when he's doing it.
Yeah, that's great.
That was kind of the process.
Folks.
One more question.
Oh, please.
What does it have? Have you sold it to any of the major distribution?
All that street. It's not up to me to sell.
I know it's not.
No,
I know, but I just thought maybe you might.
I don't know. You know, you're the last to know. As Stevie Miller, you know, we are the last to know what goes on. It's I don't know. I don't own it.
It's on iTunes. If you want to pass it around to your friends and tell them it's on iTunes.
Yeah, it's on iTunes.
Should be on Netflix.
Well, it was on CBC.
It was on the Air Canada.
Was it on Jam?
Yeah, it was on Air Canada on the flights. I saw it on the flights, and it was described as an old man wanders about his attic and reminisces about the war.
It was on CBC in 2010 when it.
One for me at the end there when he got the audience of veterans, and if you know uniforms and cap badges, you know Queensland Rifles of Canada, Hong Kong veteran, which is another story unto itself. I'm wondering how did you?
I talked to all of them.
I bet. Could you tell us, please, a bit more about the veterans and how you found them?
The producer went to a Pacific Veterans Association. That was the first, and then she also went to basically the army. For the young guys because they were going to Afghanistan. The older guys were mostly Pacific, right? Several guys had been prisoners in prison camps.
Yeah.
And I told them about how they survived. Like they crawled out, which was punishable by death. They crawled out of what they were supposed to be into the jungle, and they dug a hole in which they threw grubs and this and anything, insects, anything into this hole. And they would just crawl out there and they would eat this stuff, which was how they managed to kind of keep going. Yeah. It was you kind of feel, it's really embarrassing. You've been up on stage kind of pretending, and you're meeting this guy who's been through it. It's a little bit humiliating. Or not just, you feel a little uneasy.
A bit humbling, perhaps?
Yes, I think humbling is the word.
Thank you so much, John.
Pleasure.
Please, any more questions? Going once? Going twice? You, sir.
Sorry, I can't let you go. I thought the art direction or production design of the set that you used was really fantastic. And just with the props and the way it was so economically done
They were all Czechs and Russians.
The art people?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were
Oh,
all
I
Czechs
see.
and-
Oh.
You'll look at the name of the art.
Where did you shoot this in?
We shot that in the CBC on one of their floors. A lot of the CBC.
In Toronto. In
Toronto.
Toronto. Or here.
In Toronto.
In Toronto.
Great.
And they were all East Europeans that Barbara had gotten from shooting the operas, the Metropolitan Opera, right? So she had this kind of thing, and they were all they were kind of amazing. Everyone was named like kind of Boris. They were all these kind of Europeans, East Europeans with very thick accents.
Hey, John.
Yeah.
The camera moves around pretty well.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of soaring
Yeah.
shots and stuff like that. How did they do that? Did they do it all the same way, or was it
Yeah, it had a what do you call that
like a
thing?
crane or
The crane and a steady. Yeah. Yeah, a boom cam. It'll swing. Go around. Yeah.
Okay. Folks, are we running out of
I think.
steam?
I think
Excellent.
we're
On behalf of the Lount, 173 Daily Bishop Carriageville, I'd like to thank John, first of all, very much for coming and joining us tonight, entertaining our questions, his spouse and friends and veterans of production. Wonderful to have you here too. To members of the branch and guests of the branch, thank you so much for coming and joining us. We plan to do more of these, don't we, Allan? Allan Schrag, our lounge chair.
Yeah.
So, okay. So, have your cake and eat it too.
What's next? When's the next film?
Okay, and was it 2 weeks, Allan? We're gonna do Top Gun Maverick? Yeah. Yeah. The 21st. Yeah.
Top Gun
Top Gun Maverick. Next Wednesday evening.
Will Tom Cruise be here?
That's a surprise.
No, we're gonna get some
A
Scientology.
surprise. But next Wednesday night is Fish and Chips night.
Oh, that's good.
Prepayment requested by Sunday, I think, so the order can go to Cockney Kings. Very good value. Tell you that. Coincidentally, it's Valentine's Day, so the fish will come in heart shapes. Sorry, no, not true. Not true at all. Okay. Does anyone have any questions? Does anyone have any questions about the branch? If anyone has not paid their annual dues or late, and on that night, thank you very much, John.
Oh, thank you. Wanted to mention that Billy Bishop died of old age at 56.
Okay.
Yeah. 50.